I arrived in that small coastal town a few months ago. I was just looking for a fresh start after the breakup. As a private investigator, I thought the cases here would be simple, maybe even enlightening. I didn't expect it to be weird. The library was old but charming, with wooden shelves that smelled like dust and history. The librarian, Margaret, greeted me with wide eyes and shaky hands. She told me about the books moving around. I listened but thought it was a wild tale. But when I stepped into the stacks, I felt a chill that made my skin crawl. I brushed it off. Libraries can be strange. But as I started checking the shelves, I felt like someone was watching me. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. Later that night, I called Margaret. She told me about a family, the Dunhams, who vanished years ago. They used to come to the library, she said. That caught my interest. Why hadn't I heard about this before? My curiosity grew, but so did an uneasy feeling. I went back to the library. The second I stepped inside, I heard them, the giggles of children. They echoed off the walls, even when I was alone. It sent chills down my spine. Was I losing my mind? Or was this part of the mystery I had stumbled into? Every clue led me back to the Dunhams. I wanted to ask locals, but they only murmured or looked away. Felt like they were scared, like they knew something I didn't. The more I learned, the more the town crept under my skin. As night fell, I started piecing things together. But I felt cold. The shadows were moving now, creeping closer. There was a rustling sound outside my office, like something was brushing against the window. My heart raced. I peeked outside, but nothing was there. I thought about what Margaret had said. The books were rearranging, right? I couldn't stop thinking about it. What happened to the Dunhams? Was there a connection? I needed to find out, but I was getting ahead of myself. Then I heard the laughter again. This time it was louder. It was right outside my window. I gripped my chair, frozen in place. What was happening? Hesitantly, I looked up, and there was nothing, just darkness. But the laughter lingered, echoing in my mind. Days turned into nights, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My dreams were haunted by those voices. I could almost see the Dunhams, their faces twisted in fear. I started to wonder if I uncovered something I shouldn't have. Was it the library? The Dunhams? I didn't have answers. I just had more questions. I felt like I had stepped into a story that was never meant to be told. And as I sat there in the silence, I knew I wouldn't leave without finding out what truly happened. But deep down, I was terrified of what I might find. The next morning, I decided to confront my fears. I returned to the library, expecting answers, or at least clarity on the Dunhams. As I walked through the door, the old wood creaked beneath my feet. The air felt heavier, thick with anticipation. Margaret was already there, her hands clutching a stack of yellowed papers. She looked relieved to see me. I did some digging, she said, her voice hushed as if we were sharing secrets. You need to see this. I followed her to a back room lined with more bookshelves, but these were filled with documents and clippings. She spread out the papers on the table. These are articles about the Dunhams. They just vanished one night, and nobody knows why. I scanned the headlines, feeling stomach knots tightening. Family disappears without a trace and mystery of the Dunhams deepens. There was a photo of the family. They looked happy, unaware of the fate that awaited them. It made me uneasy. There's also this, Margaret continued, handing me an old newspaper clipping. The bold letters read, "Local children report strange laughing sounds." The article described reports of giggles echoing from the woods by the library. It was dated just a few days before the Dunhams disappeared. My heart raced as I thought of the laughter I heard. It was coming from the library, but it was also out there somewhere else entirely. What do you think that means? I asked, searching her eyes for any insight. I think it means you should be careful. People around here don't like to talk about the Dunhams or what happened that night. Her hands shook slightly. Maybe you're better off leaving it alone. Leaving it alone? I couldn't do that. Curiosity clawed at me, but so did fear. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was digging into something much larger than I understood. Just then, the lights flickered overhead. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine as the temperature dropped. Shadows shifted in the corners of the room, and the giggles erupted again, echoing, but this time, they sounded almost mocking. My skin prickled with the realization that whatever was happening, it was circling us. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. Margaret nodded, wide-eyed. "We should go. Now." We bolted toward the exit, but as I reached for the door, a strong gust pushed it shut. Panic surged through me. "What the hell is going on?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the small room. Then, the laughter grew louder, filling the air, bouncing off the walls like it was alive. Suddenly, the books began to rattle on the shelves. One volume slipped from its spot, landing open on the floor. It was open to a page marked with a faded photograph of the Dunhams. I kneeled to take a closer look. That S when I saw it, a handwritten note in the margin. "If you hear us, we're close." My breath caught in my throat. I didn't want to believe it, but I had a sinking feeling that discovery would lead to something far worse. I could almost feel the eyes of the Dunhams on me, pleading or warning. I turned to Margaret, my heart pounding. What if they're trying to say something? She looked pale, fear etched into her face. "Then you need to find out, but I can't. I can't stay here." Before I could respond, the air shifted again, heavier and thicker. A shadow loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the light. "Someone is here." The moment hung in the air, thick with dread. I couldn't tell if I wanted to run or confront whatever was coming for us. I took a deep breath, sweat coating my palms. Then everything went dark. I tried to blink away the darkness, but it swallowed me whole. My heart thudded loudly, drowning out the laughter that had filled the room just moments ago. I could feel the weight of the silence pressing in on me. "Margaret," I called out, my voice trembling. "Are you okay?" I heard no response. The panic began to swell within me. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the table. The papers were still there, and I instinctively began feeling my way around, hoping to find her or the door. Each passing second felt like an eternity. Suddenly, I caught a flicker, a sliver of light peeking through the thick darkness. I rushed toward it, praying it was Margaret. My hands hit cold metal, and I realized I had stumbled against the doorframe. With a shaky breath, I pulled the door open. Light flooded the room again, illuminating the chaos we had just escaped. But it wasn't the safety I expected. Margaret was gone. The table was intact, but the stack of papers lay scattered across the floor. My stomach twisted as I took in the scene, the loneliness of the library washing over me like a heavy wave. "Margaret," I yelled, hoping for an answer that never came. There was something on the floor, another paper, untouched amidst the mess. Heart racing, I knelt to pick it up. It was another newspaper clipping dated months after the Dunhams vanished. The headline read, "Disappearance linked to unexplained phenomena." I skimmed through the article, and one line caught my eye. Local residents recalled eerie laughter and shadows darting through the trees. Could this be connected to what had just happened? I felt a chill run down my spine as I recalled the giggles echoing outside. I gripped the article tightly, dread settling in my gut. The light flickered again, and once more, the shadows around me deepened, twisting in ways that felt unnatural. I glanced toward the dense row of shelves where I had found the first clipping, something inside me urging me to check again. Perhaps there was more I hadn't seen. As I walked closer, I felt a sudden rush of cold air wash over me, sending shivers through my bones. The shadows seemed to swirl, narrowing around my feet, almost pulling me backward. I stumbled but forced myself to stand firm. I wasn't going to be scared away. Then I heard it again, the laughter. This time it was louder, clearer, and it was right outside. Felt taunting, like a child calling from afar, drawing me closer. Every instinct inside me screamed to run, but my curiosity pushed me forward. I opened the door wider and stepped outside, the bright afternoon sun stinging my eyes against the stark darkness I had just escaped. The laughter echoed through the trees, and there, in the distance, I saw movement. Shadows flitted between the trunks, darting away, too fast for my eyes to catch. I rushed toward the sound, heart pounding, but as I neared the tree-line, the laughter ceased. A disquiet settled over the clearing. I stood there, breathless, tension rising in all my limbs. What had just happened to Margaret? What was happening to me? When I noticed something white fluttering in the grass, a piece of paper. I hesitated but picked it up. My breath caught in my throat as I read the neat handwriting. If you seek the truth, the path reveals itself. But at what cost? I stood frozen, reading that message over and over. What truth? What path? My heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. I didn't have time to think too long about it. I needed to find Margaret. I glanced back at the trees. Shadows still moved between the trunks, beckoning me deeper into the woods. I felt the weight of the silence and the unknown pressing down on me. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was going on here wasn't just a coincidence. Taking a deep breath, I began to walk toward the tree-line. The sunbeams filtered through the leaves, creating a strange pattern on the ground. I felt a little lightheaded as I stepped past the first few trees. Then, the laughter started again, soft, eerie, and close. "Margaret!" I called, my voice wavering. Nothing. Just that unsettling laughter, echoing through the stillness. I hesitated, my instincts telling me this was a terrible idea. But I couldn't turn back now. I had to know what was happening. As I moved further in, the shadows thickened. The trees stood like silent sentinels, towering over me, blocking out the sun little by little. I could see their gnarled branches twisting like fingers reaching for something. A chill ran through me. Then I heard it, whispers mingling with the laughter, like a conversation I wasn't meant to overhear. I strained to catch the words but only caught fragments. Her. Find. Never. My heart raced again. Were they talking about Margaret? I stepped forward, trying to locate the source of the whispers. It felt like the very trees were moving, their shadows shifting and twisting in the corner of my eye. When I saw it. A flash of white between the thick trunks. I rushed toward it, excitement mingled with dread. As I pushed past the underbrush, I stumbled into a small clearing. In the center lay a child's doll, porcelain and cracked, its glassy eyes staring blankly at me. Next to it was another folded piece of paper, crumpled but still intact. I knelt, picking it up with shaky hands. The familiar handwriting hastily scrawled 3 words. Find her first. Before I could process what it meant, I heard the laughter again, this time mixed with a shrill scream. Cut through the trees like a knife. I bolted back toward the entrance, branches snagging at my clothes. My breath was ragged, and fear twisted in my gut. I had to get to Margaret before whatever this was did something terrible. But as I burst into the main area of the woods, everything changed. The bright sun was gone, replaced by an inky darkness. Panic gripped me as I spun around. Margaret! I yelled, but my voice faded into the void. I wasn't just lost in the woods. I was lost in something much worse. The laughter was now a cacophony, surrounding me, filling the air. I could feel eyes watching from the shadows, waiting. Then, out of the darkness, I heard a familiar voice. Help! It was Margaret. She was close, but the call was weak, almost as if it was echoing from a distance. My heart raced as I turned toward the sound, desperate to reach her. But every step I took only deepened my uncertainty. I could feel the darkness closing in, and I knew whatever had taken Margaret was hunting me now, too. I pushed through the darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. Margaret! I shouted again, but my voice barely cut through the overwhelming gloom. The laughter swirled around me, as if it were alive, echoing off the trees and wrapping around my throat. The faint cry for help had come from my left. I turned, squinting into the shadows. Hold on, I'm coming. I couldn't shake the feeling that every move I made was being watched. Each step felt like a mistake, a challenge to whatever was lurking in those dark corners. As I stumbled forward, I felt something brush past my arm. Panic surged through me, and I whipped around. But there was nothing there, just more darkness enveloping me. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I had to find Margaret. A faint glow flickered ahead, pulled me in like a moth to a flame. I picked up my pace, my focus on that light. As I got closer, I saw it was a lantern hanging from a tree branch, its flickering flame casting dancing shadows on the ground. Attached to the lantern was another note, fluttering in the wind. I hesitated, my instincts screaming, but I couldn't ignore it. I reached for the note, the edges crumbling against my fingers. It read, "Trust the darkness, but beware the light." I frowned, confusion washing over me. What did it mean? Behind me, the laughter turned into a high-pitched wail, cutting through the air. I spun around, the lantern's light flickering wildly. "Margaret!" I yelled again, but the laughter grew louder, drowning out my voice. I turned back to the lantern. Shadows danced around it, twisting and writhing. There was an odd comfort in its glow, despite the warning scribbled on the note. I could feel the darkness creeping closer, almost as if it wished to snuff out the light. "Focus," I whispered to myself. I needed to make a decision. I could either continue following the light or retreat into the depths of the woods. The laughter faded momentarily, giving me a fleeting sense of hope. "Margaret!" I shouted one more time, my voice echoing eerily against the trees. Maybe I could draw her out, maybe she could find me. But as silence enveloped me once again, I felt dread creep in. Time was running out. I stepped closer to the lantern. The warm glow felt inviting, but the shadows beyond it twisted ominously. I reached out, my fingers brushing the cool metal of the lantern. Just then, I heard a rustle behind me. I turned, heart racing. "Who's there?" I demanded, but no answer came. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure standing just beyond the reach of the light. A child, with wild hair and a face pale as the moon, staring at me with wide, terrified eyes. "Help her," the child whispered, pointing toward the darkness. Before I could react, the figure disappeared, leaving me more lost than ever. "Margaret!" I shouted again, panic rising. But the woods had shifted, the shadows growing thicker. I was alone, and I felt time slipping through my fingers. The air grew colder as the laughter crept back in. But this time it was joined by a new sound, a low, haunting hum that sent chills spiraling down my spine. What had I gotten myself into? I was about to find out. I took a step back from the lantern, the faint glow flickering uncertainly as if it too were afraid. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, but my instincts were at war. Couldn't let the darkness win. I struggled to suppress the doubt gnawing at me, urging me to flee. In this moment I needed clarity. "Margaret!" I shouted one more time, but silence was my answer. A shiver swept through me as the low hum escalated, growing into a dissonant choir of whispers that felt like claws scraping at my mind. I squinted into the darkness again, hoping to see something, anything. That S when I saw it. A faint outline began to form in the shadows. I leaned closer, squinting harder, and realized it was a figure. It was tall and gaunt, standing motionless. My breath hitched, and adrenaline surged anew. The laughter returned, rising until it was deafening, merging with the hum in a chaotic melody that echoed in my ears. I forced myself to stay still. Whatever this was, it couldn't hurt me if I didn't provoke it. Instead, I searched the shadows for a way to dismantle this confusion. My eyes darted back to the lantern. The note still clutched in my hand whispered to me as if it held the answers to my questions. "Trust the darkness," I murmured. Then I noticed something unusual about the shadows. They weren't just black, they swirled and twisted, forming slight shapes that suggested familiarity. Shapes that resembled. I sucked in a sharp breath. I had seen those silhouettes before. Flickers of memories, moments buried deep. A nightmare from long ago. Had I stumbled into my own past? "Margaret!" The urgency in my voice strengthened, spurred by the realization. With each repeat, I felt a presence near me, something tethered to the very fabric of these woods. I started walking toward the tall figure, hoping it wasn't some trick of the light. The laughter quieted, but the hum remained a relentless reminder of my uncertainty. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the ground was pulling me back. I was drawn to the figure. As I got closer, the shadows dimmed and the shape became clearer. It was Margaret. Her silhouette, frail yet purposeful, stood still, eyes wide and darting as if she too sensed something lurking nearby. I called her name, the sound strong and grounding. "Margaret, it's me." I reached out, but the moment I did, the light flickered violently, casting a cascade of shadows. In that split second, a dark figure lunged between us, a creature cloaked in the very essence of night, a swirl of hopeless despair. Before I could react, it whispered her name. My heart dropped. "Margaret, run!" I shouted, but the words felt muted against the overwhelming chaos. She didn't move. Her eyes were locked onto the specter, and for a moment I understood the connection. It wasn't just a mere shadow. It was fear given form. "Margaret!" This time, my voice cracked with desperation. But as I reached for her again, the glow of the lantern sputtered out completely. Everything went dark. The laughter transformed into a roar of chaos, drowning out my thoughts. Suddenly, I was gripped by the sensation of being pulled backward, away from Margaret and into the depths of the woods. I fought against whatever force had taken hold of me, panic clawing at my throat. Then I remembered the note. "Trust the darkness." I closed my eyes and surrendered to it, hoping to find clarity amidst the inky void. But as the whispers grew louder, I realized I had only just begun to scratch the surface of whatever was happening here. And then everything changed. I felt weightless and suspended in the darkness, like I was trapped between dreams and waking. Each whisper bathed me in a chill, and the chaos started to fade. In that void, the frantic energy transformed into something softer. A distinct thought emerged. Follow it. I opened my eyes, just a crack at first. Shapes swirled, and slowly, a familiar warmth flickered back to life. The lantern, dim yet persistent, stood before me. I was no longer in the woods. Now it was like I was in a room, but nothing looked right. The walls fluctuated with shadows, as if they were breathing. I forced myself upright, my heart pounding. The air felt different, thick with something I couldn't put my finger on. "Margaret," I whispered, frail hope threading through my voice. "Are you here?" No answer came. I took a cautious step forward, the wooden floor creaking beneath me. It wasn't the familiar sound of the forest floor. It was enclosed, eerie. I began to scan the room. Dim silhouettes clung to the corners, darting away when I focused on them. Then I heard it. A single, deliberate beat echoed against the silence, the familiar rhythm of a heart. It wasn't mine. I turned sharply, adrenaline surging again. It was coming from behind a door that appeared seemingly from nowhere. "Margaret," I called, the word heavy with desperation. I stepped toward the door, heart racing. Was she behind it? The heartbeat quickened, almost as if it was responding to my presence. I hesitated, hand hovering over the doorknob. What if it was another trick? What if whatever awaited me was worse than the darkness? But I remembered her frozen gaze, the shadows wrapping around her. I had to know. I twisted the knob and it opened with a soft creak. The room beyond was swallowed by an inky mist. I took a deep breath and crossed the threshold, the air thickening with each step. The heartbeat was louder now, steady but urgent. In the center of the room stood a mirror. It shimmered like water, reflecting not just my image but echoes of memories long buried. Faces drifted in and out, people I used to know but had lost touch with. I stumbled back, startled. Each reflection made me question what I was seeing. But then I heard her voice. "Help me." It was faint, almost drowned by the mist, but unmistakable. "Please." The urgency coursed through me, pushing aside the fear. I moved closer, my eyes locked onto the mirror, searching for Margaret's face among the swirling images. "Margaret, I'm coming." As I touched the glass, coldness seeped into my fingers, radiating through my entire body. I felt a pull, fierce and all-consuming. I had one moment of clarity, a choice. I could either turn away or dive deeper. With a scream, I pushed through the barrier. The world collapsed around me. My vision blurred, darkness engulfing me anew. But for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. I had to rescue her. That's when I felt a tug, and the heartbeat stopped. Everything fell silent, and I was left hanging, waiting for whatever came next. I gasped as I fell through nothingness, disoriented and frightened. The silence was suffocating, not a whisper to guide me. Just when it seemed like I might drift infinitely, I landed hard on a cold, damp surface. I blinked against the harsh light that suddenly flared up around me. I was back in the room with the mirror, but it felt different now. The mist was gone, replaced by a stark clarity that left nothing concealed. My breath echoed in the stillness, loud and desperate, but the heartbeat was gone. I called out again, "Margaret." My voice felt small, swallowed by the vastness of the empty room. I stepped back to the mirror, my reflection staring back, confused. The faces I'd seen earlier were still present, flickering with urgency. I leaned in, searching their eyes for answers. "Where is she?" I whispered. In response, the mirror rippled. A figure emerged, distorting the surface like a reflection on water. It wasn't Margaret, but someone else. A woman, her hair wild, eyes wide with fear. "Get out," she shouted, her mouth moving but her voice more like a distant echo. "It's not safe. You shouldn't be here." Panic surged through me. I stumbled back from the mirror, heart racing. What do you mean?" I shouted, but the woman was already disappearing, replaced once again by the faces of the past. Desperation clawed at me. I couldn't leave without understanding what was happening. Were these spirits trapped in the glass just like Margaret? I pressed my palms flat against the cold surface, searching for a connection. "Anyone, where's Margaret?" pleaded. Suddenly, the air in the room shifted. The walls began to hum, a low, growling sound that vibrated through my bones. Shadows slithered toward me, thick and hostile, swirling and coiling around the edges of my vision. I wasn't alone anymore. Then, out of the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Tall and spectral, it seemed to absorb the light, becoming an entity of pure darkness. I froze, fear gripping me. "Who are you?" My voice trembled as I backed away, instinctively wanting to flee. The figure remained silent, its presence heavy. "Tell me where Margaret is," I yelled, defiance igniting in me. The figure tilted its head, as if considering me. I expected an attack, but instead, it extended an arm toward me, revealing something clasped in its hand. A locket. My heart raced as the locket swung slightly, revealing a familiar insignia, the same emblem Margaret wore. Suddenly, the room quaked. A loud cracking sound echoed as the mirror behind me fractured. A spiderweb of splintered glass. The shadowy figure stepped back, its eyes glinting with something that felt like hunger. In that moment, I realized I was out of time. I needed to decide. I could reach for the locket or escape through the door that just materialized behind me. Then everything went black. I woke up on the floor, gasping for breath. The room was dark, but I could still see the faint outline of the shattered mirror across from me. My heart raced. Had I chosen to reach for the locket? I racked my brain, but it was a blur. Slowly, I pushed myself up. The darkness felt thicker, more suffocating than before. I rubbed my eyes and squinted into the gloom. Then, I noticed movement, a shadow shifting in the corner of the room. "Who's there?" I croaked, voice hoarse and trembling. I didn't receive an answer. The figure simply watched me, still and silent. A chill raced down my spine, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was the same entity that had extended the locket to me. Fear seeped into my bones as memories flickered back. The woman in the mirror, her frantic warning. Get out. I needed to get out. I needed Margaret. My instincts kicked in. I scrambled to my feet, heart pounding. I searched for the door, but all I found were walls encroaching, pressing in like a vice. The air was thicker now, almost choking me. I made a desperate dash forward, praying the door hadn't vanished. My fingers closed around a cold handle. Clicked open. I burst through, stumbling into a narrow hallway lit by flickering fluorescent lights. Every step echoed with an unsettling rhythm. The air felt electric, sparking with an urgency I couldn't explain. I turned left where the hallway forked, driven by an instinct I didn't fully understand. Then I stopped short. A door at the end stood ajar, a sliver of light spilling onto the floor. I approached cautiously, heart hammering in my chest. As I reached for the handle, I heard soft whispers, barely audible but growing louder. They felt familiar, yet distorted, like echoes of a past I couldn't grasp. "Margaret," I called again, trying to drown out the whispers. "If you're here, please respond." The whispers faded, replaced by a sharp snap that made me jump. I froze. My pulse thundered in my ears. Something was wrong. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach, something darker lingering just out of sight. Gathering my courage, I pushed the door open. My breath hitched, and a wave of cold air washed over me. Inside, the room was an exact replica of the one with the mirror, but it felt more chaotic. Papers were scattered everywhere, and symbols filled the walls of frantic script that seemed alive. In the center of the room sat a small table, and on it lay the locket. Familiar and haunting. My heart sank. This was a trap. Before I could step back, the door slammed shut behind me. The sound echoed, and the shadows thickened, wrapping around my ankles. The darkness surged, clawing along my skin as panic set in. "Let me out," I screamed, pounding against the door, but it wouldn't budge. Then I turned back to the table. The locket shimmered, an alluring glow amidst the chaos. I could feel the pull strong and undeniable. It was calling to me. As the shadows advanced, I made my choice. I had to know the truth, even if it meant stepping deeper into the darkness. I reached for the locket, but before I could grasp it, a voice cut through the air, chilling me to my core. "You shouldn't have come here." I froze as icy fingers brushed my shoulder. I turned slowly, and my heart sank. Someone or something was standing behind me. The figure loomed tall and shadowy, an amalgamation of shifting darkness and whispers that seemed to wrap around it like a cloak. It had no distinct features, yet I felt its gaze piercing into me. This is where secrets intertwine. It spoke, the voice echoing around the room, each word a haunting melody. "You seek the truth, yet you are blind to its consequences. Where is Margaret?" I demanded, desperation clawing at my throat. The shadows pressed closer, urging me to retreat, but I stood firm. I couldn't let fear take hold again. "Do you truly wish to know?" it replied, gliding towards the table, where the locket shimmered tantalizingly. Finding her means finding yourself, but at what cost? I thought of the countless questions that had haunted me, the laughter, the shadows that danced in the library, the eerie connection to the Dunhams. I had waded into this dark water, but the depths were far murkier than I imagined. If I don't know, how can I save her? Some truths are better left unexplored, it warned, but the locket caught my eye, the slight pulse of light alluring. It felt like an open door to everything, the answer I needed, the conclusion to this relentless chase. Before I could think it through, I reached for the locket. A surge of energy surged through me as my fingers closed around it, and images flooded my mind. Memories cold and distant, yet vivid, like flashes of light illuminating a forgotten history. I gasped, collapsing to my knees. I saw my own past, moments I had buried, my childhood essence intertwining with Margaret's face, radiant and hopeful. We were connected, shadows of the same essence, and instantly I understood. The Dunhams, their giggles, the whispers, they were echoes of my past, reflections of our intertwined fates. "Margaret," I shouted, pulling myself up, but my voice now fell into a deeper void, swallowed by the chaos. The figure chuckled, and a wave of shadows surged like a dark tide, wrapping around the room's walls. "It's already too late for her," it cooed. "You claim to seek her, but do you truly understand? The tether you share goes beyond mere friendship. Every choice creates ripples, some lost in time, others forging chains." With newfound resolve, I clenched the locket in my palm. "Then help me." A moment of silence passed, the entity casting an amused glance toward the table. "What you seek is not here to be handed to you. Listen, you have a choice. cut the bond or embrace it. Only you can make the decision that will echo for eons. Cut it? The idea horrified me. No. I abandon her. The shadows around me thickened, swirling into a tempest. Your courage deludes you. The truth will be revealed if you are willing to accept the risk. I don't care. I yelled, desperation fueling my voice. Tell me what I need to do. The entity paused, considering my words. So be it. But no. There are always those who let the past lie. Suddenly, the darkness twisted into sharp outlines, forms emerging with haunting eyes and ghostly faces. Whispers grew into a cacophony, drowning out all rational thought. I clutched the locket tighter, the warmth radiating into my skin, a lifeline knitted tight with hopes and fears. With one fresh breath, I tore the thing open, revealing the hidden contents. And there, etched on the inside, was the name of a child lost to time, a name I thought I recognized. Lila, I breathed, memories cascading. I had known her. Margaret, in a different light, twisted through time. The question that had welled up now found definition. Who were we in this twisted tale? Trust comes at a price, the figure murmured. But I was beginning to accept that I had already paid too much, letting go of distant truths that were finally connecting. Then I'll trust the darkness, I murmured, realizing it was less about spectacle than the comprehension of what it meant to truly understand connection. In an instant, everything shifted. The shadows shrank back, the whispers quieted, and the cacophony dimmed. The room vanished, replaced by an expanse of bright light before me. Was it an exit? Was I free? But the shadows seemed to linger at the edge of my vision, tauntingly close. And as I stood there, the fear shifted into a knowing warmth. Somewhere in that bright expanse, a distant laughter broke through the silence, sweet and haunting, compelling me to follow. And as I took a step forward, driven by hope for Margaret, I knew the answers would never fully reveal themselves. The shadows of our pasts remain intertwined, forever echoing just out of reach. As I vanished into that light, I couldn't shake the unsettling thought, was it really an escape, or merely a transition into another layer of the enigmatic web that held us entangled? In this dance with the unknown, I was both seeker and lost, forever questioning the boundaries between trust and darkness.